Got Oliver Kay with me, Chief Football Correspondent of the Times. Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure.
Obviously I set up Footy with Dad because of Jake's history. I never thought I'd be able to take him to a game, but fortunately he's now well enough and we go regularly. What were your childhood memories of watching football?
I was thinking about this on the way here, and I grew up in Cheshire, and one of the many great things about that note was that we had about 6 or 7 first division clubs, as it was at the time in the early 80s, within an hour or an hour and a half of us. And my dad is an absolute football fanatic, lifelong, and still is. And he used to just love taking us to, not just to one team, but to different teams.
Excellent, yeah.
So it would be, one week we'd go to Goodison, Anfield, Main Road, Old Trafford. Other times we'd go down the M6, we'd go to Villa Park, we'd go to the Hawthorns, we'd go to Molineux.
So you sampled all
we
different...
got to Stoke. Stoke was actually nearer than any of them. Stoke was where I went to my first game, actually. Not my team. Won't say who is, but Stoke, Nottingham Forest, 1981, and it was just this. What I remember is probably a really cliche thing to remember, but the kind of the sort of look at these turnstiles, and your dad kind of said, yeah, walk through there, it'll move, you'll get through, and then going up and walking up the steps and to the top, and then looking down, and you can see not just the kind of boggy old muddy pitch that you've got at your school or your local park, but this sort of what looked at the time probably wasn't pristine green, and the kind of nets, goal nets that you'd only seen in Subbuteo, and this bright white pitch markings, and it was just I had the same experience as I said, at Anfield and Old Trafford and all these different grounds, and I just remember that sort of first. You walk in and you see that you'd sometimes you'd hope you'd be near.
It's like Jake,
near the
he remembers
goalposts.
the midweek games under the floodlights. And they stick out, don't they?
Yeah. But in those days, you could get to Saturday morning and my dad would look at the fixture list and say, we can go to Wolves against so and so, we can go to Everton against so and so, and it was quite a varied experience. For years, a few years after that, we ended up getting season tickets at one particular team. I'm not going to mention them, but it was just I just loved it. I mean, it's the site, it's those sites, the green pitch, the nets, also the smells. I just remember if I smell strong, if I walk into a pub in a foreign country where they still let you smoke, and it's that really horrible strong tobacco smell. That just reminds me of going to football in the early 80s.
Excellent.
And I say that in almost affectionately about cigarette smell, but it was wonderful times. I don't know if my dad realises quite how affectionately I look back on those days. But I can remember, first game at all of those grounds. I can remember, silly things, players getting sent off, and first time Old Trafford, Gary Birtles being the whipping boy of the crowd and getting annihilated by the fans. Molineux, where there seemed to be an enormous gap between the stands and the pitch for some reason, and just the noise the fans made, I just loved it.
Excellent.
Still love it now.
Excellent. And how do you think it's changed from when you work here to taking like my son to football now?
I think one thing that's changed is the demand for tickets, and although I certainly look back on that early 80s era and mid 80s, late 80s as a real kind of golden era of football through the eyes of a child. It's probably the time you look back on it most fondly, but you could say that the product back in those days was far inferior. You could say there were reasons why people stayed away. The stadiums weren't safe. There was trouble. So what's changed is the stadiums now are magnificent, but it's come at a cost, I suppose, in some ways, because it doesn't feel like there's this sort of heart and soul of. It doesn't feel as attached to the team, the club, the locality. But I think the one thing that's really changed in terms of parents and kids and what is that you can't just wake up on a Saturday morning and think, let's go to Old Trafford, or let's go to Anfield, because people are long waiting lists just to get tickets for one game. There's these lotteries to get tickets for individual games. It's such a struggle to get tickets, and that's a real shame, because the demand is so great now, but and the supply is greater because people are moving to bigger grounds again, but it's not big enough to be able to satisfy everybody. So it'll be I think, those who are able to take their kids to football.
Do you think clubs should be, maybe not so much Premiership, because you can understand the money wise, but do you think generally clubs could be doing more to get kids into football?
I think perhaps more at Premier League level they need to. I mean, I know they just look at, worry about the bottom line. They worry about, are they making enough money? And the answer is yes, they're making more than enough money. And there are things they can do. They can make more tickets accessible to younger fans, and parents and child tickets and that kind of thing. Or even when they get to 14, 15, 16, 17, maybe get maybe make arrangements there for people to be able to get tickets in groups of young lads, so that they can keep going when they're no longer financially, or when they reach an age when their parents aren't able to take them. I don't see many fans in the sort of late teens, early 20s at games these days, and that's a difficulty really. But it's just a lot of the tickets are in the possession of people who have had season tickets for decades, and you think, well, why would they give them up? But at the same time, there are generations of fans who are being sort of left to watch it on TV.
And lastly, your advice would be for dads and mums and grandparents: take the kids to football as young as they can, really. Well,
yeah, but it's very expensive, and so sometimes I've got friends who've got season tickets at various clubs, and they take their kids, and I say, how much does it cost? And I think, God, how much? Because although I'll pay for tickets when I'm going on, for pleasure rather than for business. I certainly
nearly mentioned your club then.
No, funny enough, next week I'm going to watch Sheffield United v Nottingham Forest as a paying fan with mates. But I think I have two daughters, one of whom's only 9 months old, one of whom is 9 years old, and thinks football is the most ludicrous thing, and she's probably right in some ways, but no, she's got no interest in football. I sometimes say, should we go? No. But I see my nephews are, one's a mad Chelsea fan, one's a mad Spurs fan, and that's it's lovely seeing it now through their eyes, and they're able to get along now and then to games, and it's just that difficulty in getting tickets, which I spoke about. But
definitely.
For those, I think it's a wonderful thing for dads to do, or mums to do with sons and daughters, and for me to do with nephews, and perhaps not my daughter. She doesn't seem interested. But,
not yet.
She won't be. She won't. She's far too. She's. I was going to say far too sensible. No, she's not far too sensible. But she just thinks it's a crazy pursuit. But as Carlo Ancelotti's line was, that football is the most important of the unimportant things in life, and it certainly is.
Okay, lovely. Thanks
Real
for stopping
pleasure.
by. Enjoy the game.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Cheers, Jake.